Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where'd your microphone go?
Good morning and welcome to the November 3rd meeting of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. You will note that they've taken my microphone away.
What's he looking for?
A
Her
microphone.
microphone.
next to you.
Gone.
That must be telling.
Yeah, it
Did you
is.
take my microphone? Just because I said those bad things
I just
about
wanted
you.
to see you and Ted buddy up over one mic like a duet.
But I can't, I mean, it's all hooked in, so you're not gonna get it.
I'll share.
Oh, you know what, I can, hold on.
I have the dog today.
That's really
Oh.
Oh, he's,
What's this?
Well, Teresa, what do you have there?
Oh, he wants to go for a walk.
Did somebody use that?
This is our featured pet from the Lorain County
Use it up here?
kennel today. His name is D.O.G.
I didn't know anybody used it.
He's a male lab mix, lab husky mix. He's 7.5 years old. He was turned in by the owner, his owner. Good. Come on, turn around so Hal can get your picture. Can you sit? No, we're not going for a walk. No, sit down, sit down, sit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He's in cage 35 and is eligible for adoption on Saturday, November the 6th. If you don't like this dog, we have others. Check us on the website or come out to our kennel. Make a nice pet. He's looking for a home. Thank you.
just in case.
No, I think she's got a green light. I think she's good.
Thank you.
I just really thought they took it away permanently.
Election was yesterday, Commissioner, done.
I'm out of a
At
job.
a fast pace here.
Yeah.
A thought for today, forgiveness is giving love when there is no reason to. Madam Clerk?
At 9:45, we'll have a presentation from Antonio Barrios, President on Lorain Arts Council. Under resolutions, number 1, Job and Family Services bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
There is no advances, no repayments, requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Travel.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just looking at the sheet. I do have potential new hire at Golden Acres I'd like to talk about, and I'd like to update you on where we're at with our negotiations with the Teamsters, and also want to discuss the bargaining over the operating engineers at the bridge. Both of those topics are allowable under the Sunshine Law for executive session talks, and I would ask that we conclude, at the conclusion of our regular board meeting today, we go into executive session to discuss those items. Thank you.
Thank you.
Approve and waive the reading and stay in the County Commissioners meeting minutes of October 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Community Development, award contract to CT Consultants, Mentor, in the amount of $77,350 to provide professional services to administer and implement the FY10 CHIP grant.
Don, do you have any comments on this?
Not really, it's, well,
Well, tell us what we're doing this morning.
thank you, Commissioners. This is a contract that we've entered into over the past several years to assist the department in operating the CHIP program. And these services are ones that we cannot provide in-house. We had previously RFP'd for the services and found CT to be the most responsive. This comes out of the grant itself from the administrative, and then also on the service provider side, we get inspections, approvals, and a little bit of administrative help for our rehab program. And those are services that we just do not have on the staff.
Yeah, the CT does the on-sites, you know, all the recommendations, and I think we went to them about 3 or 4 years ago.
Right, because we had issues in our past stuff, so we had to bring somebody in as a specialist, and it was cheaper to do this than it was to actually bring staff on.
Yes.
Yes, it was the lowest cost solution.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll
Thank
move
you.
for approval.
I'll second.
Anything further? Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Award various contracts for homeowners to receive grant assistance from CDBG FY09 home repair activity, which includes a contingency for any unforeseen change orders to be paid from the home repair account. 1, Burnett's Septic Service, Inc., LaGrange, in the amount of $11,780 for Norman and Ethel Harp at 51625 State Route 18, Wellington, for septic system repair. 3 bids were sent out, 1 received being the most responsive. And then 2, Everett Excavation, Grafton, the amount of $4,400 for Kerry Rock at 7650 Pile South Amherst Road, Amherst, for a septic system abandonment, new sanitary line and tap-in fees. 13 bids were sent out, 5 received, this being the most responsive.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Award various contracts for homeowners to receive grant assistance from CDBG FY09 home repair activity, which includes a contingency for any unforeseen change orders to be paid from the home repair account. 1, S&J Home Maintenance, Grafton, the amount of $5,720 for Joseph and Sharon Bohr at 4865 Pinewood Drive, Sheffield Lake, for an ADA-approved shower, water closet, and shower faucet. 13 invitations were sent. 2 received, this being the most responsive. J. Kilby Enterprises, North Ridgeville, the amount of $5,753 for Lisa Duvall at 533 Hazel Street, Amherst, for furnace, heat runs, chimney cap, and liner replacements. 23 invitations were sent. 2 received. J. Kilby Enterprises, North Ridgeville, the amount of $9,028 for Dana Sutnick at 4895 Oster Road, Sheffield Lake, for roof and furnace replacements. 17 invitations were sent. 2 received. J. Kilby Enterprises, North Ridgeville, in the amount of $5,401 for Russell and Wanda Shipley at 4252 Howe Road, Sheffield Lake, for roof replacement. 17 invitations were sent. 2 received. J. Kilby Enterprises, North Ridgeville, in the amount of $12,804 for Martin Zamora at 103 Angler Lane, LaGrange, for roof and sheeting replacement. 17 invitations were sent. 2 received.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Under Job and Family, advertise request for proposals for Human Resource Consultant. Notice to be in the Journal on November 8th and 15th, open at 2 p.m. on November 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Domestic Relations, advertise for bids for floor installation in the Boys Detention Center. Notice to be in the Chronicle on November 8th and 15th. Pre-bid meeting at 3 p.m. on November 18th at the site, and open at 2 p.m. on November 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I did speak to Karen Davis yesterday, and the flooring and the abatement, asbestos abatement is both in this bid, correct?
Correct. One of the things, we're not going to be doing this right now. We're working with the domestic relations courts with the staffing issues, especially around the holidays. Doug Messer has indicated that January would be, a better time period, but I want to run concurrent processes so that we're ready to move very, very quickly when his staffing situation's best for us to get in there and close down part of that facility and get the floor down. So the asbestos is in this. You know, we anticipate it being between $50,000 and $60,000, but we have to abate that asbestos. We tried some less costly solutions a while back. They didn't really pan out as well as we'd like. We're at the point now where we have to go in and we have to spend this money. It's unfortunate given the timing, but we have loose asbestos in that area, and we need to, instead of trying to encapsulate it again, we need to take it out, abate it, and then redo the floor. So hopefully we'll be done in January, and it will be the least amount of disruption to the facility.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Under the engineer, approve and enter into subdividers agreement with Grafton Realty for Barrington Park subdivision number 4, Eaton Township.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, I have a couple quick issues this morning. One, I'm going to pass down. I'm going to ask for a renewal to the airport insurance. We have some special insurance at the airport. Jonette's been working on it. We got this late. We had to go out for quotes to redo our liability insurance. Not all of our insurance there is with cost. We've always had this policy. I just received it this week, but because of the short turnaround and timeframes between coverages, I would ask that we pass a resolution authorizing me to enter into that insurance agreement for another year. We did receive some quotes, and this is the most conforming quote, and we worked with the folks at the airport, which we have done in the past.
I think it's for $8,622 with Kaiser, and I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
There were other, how many quotes did we get?
Jonette, we called up the other insurance carrier that doesn't do our airport insurance, and they called around looking for quotes. This was the best we could do. It's very limited amount of folks that actually do this type of insurance, and Corsa won't touch this. It's a specific underwriting to airports.
Okay.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Okay, for a little good news this morning, I don't know how much of this we could have got out any sooner, and we don't really have our public releases, but I do need to talk to the board about the U.S. Steel project that we've been working on up on the lake. I'm pleased to let you know that first, it really wasn't. We didn't talk about it because we weren't allowed to earlier. We had received an additional allocation of recovery bonds from the state, totaling $40 million. Well, Monday I actually signed another sheet, and the state has allocated an additional 40 million. That's what I got. 35 million, right? $35 million of recovery bonds to the U.S. Steel project for a total of $75 million. Lots of things have been coming out here and there in the paper about this and that, but the county's been working on it for, what, about a month and a half, 2 months, maybe longer? End of July. But nobody would let us talk about this while we had to read it in the paper, but this has been a county opportunity all along. Your team here, sitting in the front row, has been running point with this. I think that we're going to see an over $90 million investment. So I would ask for you guys come up and talk a little bit about it. And I've been working with you, but you've been on the deck plate, and they're the ones that need to tell you a little bit about this.
Now, this is our new economic community development team. I'm really pleased that you folks are on board, Patrick.
Well, thank you. Glad we could finally talk about this. Like I said, U.S. Steel approached us back at end of July. And just for your recollection, in August of '09, the commissioners designated the whole county a recovery zone. So that enabled the county to accept these funds. They're ERA dollars, so it's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act money. It's allocated to areas designated by the state and local governments as having significant poverty and unemployment, home foreclosure, that type of thing. It's a tax-exempt private activity bond. And the lead entity really on this at the state level is the Department of Development. Like the county administrator mentioned, it was originally a $40 million allocation, but because of the nature of the project, which is over a $93 million investment in that plant to produce new piping for Marcellus shale type stuff, I guess, it had to go up to 35, another 35
Yeah,
million.
what
So-
they're gonna be doing at the plant is they're gonna be producing all the piping that's gonna be used to do extraction of oil from shale. Right now, this will probably be one of the only facilities that's gonna be capable of producing the materials and the piping that's gonna be necessary to do that. So it's a great investment. It's going to create between 80 and 90 permanent steelworker jobs, and I think they indicated about 125 temporary construction jobs while they do the changing at the plant.
The initial gear up for this, should they really fully implement it, is about 15 engineering jobs, which is including the construction jobs, and they think about 100 initially construction jobs that could gear up towards about 200 to bring the skilled crafts in to do some of the work, and then probably settle back down, to the typical maintenance and support type work.
Interestingly, they're not doing any brick and mortar work. This is all retooling, right, with inside the structure?
Well, I think there's actually some new equipment that needs to be purchased,
Right.
and that's how this money's geared, is for depreciable type equipment that you can buy, and it's gotta be for this particular dimension pipe, I guess.
With that, I'd like to offer you another opportunity on the resolution here to designate the $75 million to the Port Authority to issue the recovery bonds.
Don't we have
for
to go through the
county.
TEFRA hearings, Jim? Or we
The
can do that
Port Authority will
concurrently?
take care of the TEFRA hearings.
Okay.
These are similar to economic development conduit bonds. We've been issuing them through the port. And so the port is prepared to do all the TEFRA hearings and then issue the conduit bonds on behalf of Lorain County. Or we would go to the county CIC, but we haven't been using them for that. We've been using the port.
Port Authority.
So it's really great news. I wish it could have came out earlier. I'm on a daily basis trying to
Yeah.
get permission to release this and talk about it. And I know the board's been aware of it. I've been talking to you guys, and you've wanted to tell everybody that we're working real hard and creating jobs and opportunities here. But now, now's your chance. So I apologize that it came out this way, but we just got this yesterday. I mean,
Yeah, essentially, it's a big project, and we're happy to help with
Thank
it.
you, Patrick and Don, for your work, and Mr. Cortez. Timing is everything, and unfortunately, the timing wasn't all that great on this.
Right.
But the concept is great for Lorain County.
And the jobs being created are great for Lorain County as well.
You have comments, Commissioner Kay?
No.
I'll move for approval of the $75 million to the Port Authority for them to proceed.
Second.
Anything further? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
I have no further comments this morning. Thank you.
You're on a roll, don't you want to keep going?
Good news, your college issue passed.
We
More
worked
good
real
news.
hard, and it was cold yesterday morning at 6:30, standing in with signs, but I'm thankful that the voters recognized the need for that facility, and thank you for saying that. We worked real hard on that levy campaign, and it came out all way. Could have went the other way, and the folks at the college are to be lauded because their own employees really came out and worked hard, raised a lot of money from their own pockets over the last 2 years to put on a good campaign. And it's good to know that the residents value the college here in Lorain County. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Ennis, Assistant County Prosecutor.
Commissioners, I have two issues of pending litigation that I would like to discuss with you in executive session.
Commissioners report.
Well, just congratulations to all the newly elected officials. This past Tuesday, Ted and I had the opportunity to go to Oberlin, and we got to see Shirley and Elizabeth at the League of Women Voters, and they welcomed us and had lunch with them and just asked a lot of questions about county government, and we had a very nice time there, and appreciate your invitation and hope to come back and see you again. And that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you again, Shirley. It was a nice event. Also, this week, Sheffield Township Fire Department Hall, Betty and I attended on Sunday. Their grand opening, wonderful facility. I'd like to thank Linda Blanchett
Of your
From-
department.
of our department, yes, for helping secure the money with UDAG to get that facility up and running. It's absolutely beautiful. Also, congratulations to all those who made it. Congratulations to the levies that passed, especially Clearview 3 and 4, which I had the opportunity to co-chair. Did a great job. Superintendent Jama, Denise Scarpucci, there was an entire group. So it was nice to see that go through. And again, congrats to the college.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioners. I'd just like to thank the people who were not successful, but who gave the voters a choice. Several years ago, that was a comment that was made at one of the Township Association meetings, and I thought it was very appropriate, because if you don't have a choice, what's the sense in voting? So thanks to all those who gave the voters a choice, both up and down. I'd just like to mention that last Friday, Richard N.T., Virginia Haynes, and I went to visit Cuyahoga County Commissioner Peter Lawson-Jones about the possibility of a memorandum of understanding between our two counties and also Erie County on this West Shore corridor project that we've been working on for a number of years. And the letter explaining the MOU was put together at my request by NOACA. And I think we received positive comments. We met with the commissioner and Cuyahoga's county administrator. And so in return, I have asked Jerry to prepare an MOU for presentation to them, to us, and to Erie County. And I've also heard from Erie County Commissioner Bill Monahan the day before his election. He wanted to know if there's anything he needs to do, and I emailed him back, and I said yes, and I'll be in touch. So I was really excited about that. As we go down the line, I think, I know that Cuyahoga County is going to have a new form of government, but if the existing commissioners are in favor of this concept, which has been on the books for a long, long time, I think will be to our advantage as we work forward. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay,
Do we want to go to our schedule?
we can do that. Mr.
Antonio?
Antonio?
And would you like to come up and talk about the arts?
Commissioners, my name is Antonio Barrios. For those of you that don't know me, I want to thank the commissioners for this opportunity to be here and bring a little bit more light to another issue. I realize that our county and our state and our whole country is going through very difficult times, and the economy isn't what we would like it to be. But on the same note, I'd also like to remind the folks, commissioners, and the viewing public that the arts, particularly the Lorain Arts Council, is a group of dedicated artists, all living in Lorain County, that are interested in promoting the arts and working their craft here in Lorain County. We are all, like I said again, residents of Lorain County, taxpayers and people who are also involved in politics and local government. So we would like to raise a voice up and let the people know that we should not forget about the arts. Now, I know the recent elections have turned in a certain fashion that possibly the arts might be even more sacrificed than they were before. Our group doesn't pretend to subsidize that or to take the place of that. What we're saying is that we're local artists trying to get something started in Lorain County, and particularly possibly on Broadway. What we would like to do is to, first of all, invite other artists to join us. Our contact information is Lorain Arts Council, Post Office Box 251. We also have a website, www.lorainartscouncil.com, and there's a phone number, 440-320-0295. What we'd like to ask the county commissioners is that we're trying to make some kind of coalition through private business, through government, and through local residents to maintain the arts, and possibly our hope and aspiration is to open up an art gallery on downtown Broadway. We know that right now the money situation is very difficult, so at this time we're not asking for any funds. What we're asking is to help us keep the awareness on the arts, and if there's any other way that the arts could be involved on the county level, we ask that you consider Lorain Arts Council and to try and keep this movement alive. Again, with the difficult economic times, everybody's thinking about jobs and things like that. Well, the Arts Council is about jobs because we're all artists and we make our living by selling our art or our work. So it's also connected to the job situation. We're asking for people to join us. We're looking at businesses to try and work with us on whatever level they can. I know there's a lot of empty buildings, especially on Broadway, that have been empty for years and years. I know that certain cities own some of the buildings on Broadway. I don't know as far as the county commissioners or the commission owning anything on Broadway, but we're asking to help get involved with city officials and possibly working with government to use one of those empty spaces because they've been empty for years. They have to keep the building active and alive, so why not give a chance to the arts to do something with an empty building like that? And I'm sure all of you are aware of how the arts is an economic stimulus. Just in a matter of 3 years in the Tremont area, well, a little quiet little neighborhood, a couple of artists came in, got in the building, started putting their paints and their work out on the street. Now Tremont is on the National Register as an art walk, and they're bringing in thousands of visitors every year and making money. There are brand new restaurants out there. I'm sure you guys have been there, had nice dinners. The area has been transformed. And what I'm trying to say is that that's what the arts can do. I know everybody's looking at the blue collar aspect, trying to get businesses and factories in here, and I commend you for that work. But let's also look at what else we can do. I don't think we should put all our eggs in one basket. So what I'm asking is take a look at the arts. Tremont has done a fabulous job. They've recovered that whole neighborhood, and so much so that the Cleveland city officials have now turned to Gordon Square. Now Gordon Square Park has been redeveloped. They've got new theaters in there, and that's another area where the arts has been a stimulus. And what I'm saying to Lorain and Lorain County is, let's not overlook that. We have already a group of artists here, born and raised in Lorain. We're working to help us start this. Now we need help because we don't have a huge pocketbook. So I'm thinking if we can create something with local government and county government and try to get the arts and doing something like that. I mean, everybody around us has done something. There's FAVA up in Oberlin and Firelands, right? The art museum in Oberlin. Amherst just opened an art gallery. The Sheffield Township has the True North. So everybody around Lorain is doing something, but Lorain itself has yet to realize the potential of economic stimulus and growth in the arts. And so that's why I'm here today, to bring that issue up and to keep it relevant. And with what's happening today with some of the levies that went a certain direction, the arts are going to be probably one of the things on the chopping block. And I know it's a matter of economics and numbers, but we cannot relegate economic and numbers to something of our own culture, because arts is what we're about. Arts tells our story. Art, it will keep our story alive. And this is my spiel for the arts, and hopefully we can get people to join us. Again, our contact is Post Office Box 251. Our website is www.lorainartscouncil.com, and a phone number contact is 440-320-0295. Thank you so much for your time.
Antonio. Thank you. Very passionate about what you do, and I'm glad you're here to bring awareness to what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I know times are difficult and people are looking at other ways, but if we're talking about jobs and we're talking about something important, other people have done this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Right. The arts work. Yeah. They've worked in other areas.
You know, when they get the Gordon Square area hooked in with Ohio City, and then they're hooking it into Tremont.
Exactly.
They're going to have that whole corridor down there. We may not see it for another decade, but they definitely have reached out to West 65th there and that area. So it's made an amazing difference down there.
It has been. I mean, the Tremont just happened in the last 3 years. It isn't like they've been working like centuries on this.
Right.
Tremont just happened to come up and grow, and in a matter of 3 years, they're on the National Register, Art Walk. Visitors are bringing in money. Restaurants popped up, coffee shops, supplies. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's take a look at it, people, because it does work, and I'm asking for help.
Antonio, what has Lorain City Council said as of yet?
We have been actually, and I want to invite everybody to come to the building 737 Broadway, which is owned by the city. We've been getting a lot of help from Ray Carrion at the City Community Development, and we have put on art shows there and opened up what you might call a part-time gallery, but with all the artist work from Lorain County. We're going to be part of the Light Up Lorain event, which I think is a fabulous event, and we'll be having art shows in that building at 737 Broadway from the 21st until all through the Light Up Lorain. Now, right now, the latest news we have is that that building may go to the Hall of Fame, the Lorain Hall of Fame, might be put in that, but I don't know where. I know they've been having talks and whatnot, and I think that's a great organization. But what I'm saying is that the Lorain Arts Council is about business. We sell things. There's money involved. There's taxes there. So, you know, we're a business looking to get something on Broadway, which I think would be a stimulus for that area and also for Lorain County, because we're county-wide. We have artists from, you know, not just from Lorain. So right now, we're just being given permission on what you might say a day-to-day basis to use the building as an art gallery until they make a final decision, which that hasn't been made. And that's also one of the reasons that I'm here, is I would like the Lorain City Council to also consider the Lorain Arts Council a possible another venue for traffic and business to be in that building.
And as an aside, there's also a group that's working on the Lorain County Arts Council. They have a task force. They've met twice within the last couple of months, and I will forward their names and information to you so that maybe there can be some collaboration. Yes,
Well, definitely. We're always open to allies and people that are interested in the arts, and hopefully some kind of collaboration, because I mean, we can't do it alone, and that's why we're here, you know, to spread the word and bring the awareness, but we'd love to meet with anybody that's interested in promoting the arts.
Well, anytime you have an event or an open house or anything like that, why don't you forward that information to us, and we'll try to get that information out there for you.
Wonderful. Well, you know, one of the other things that we're very adamant about is that, you know, we have a lot of children in school, and they're looking at the arts, and we have a yearly coloring contest for the kids. And in fact, we're going to give out awards on the 21st at that building, 737 Broadway. I want to invite the commissioners to come down. It'll be from 3 to 5 o'clock at 737 Broadway. It will be an award that we give out to the children for our annual coloring contest. And this is just to have the kids see that there are people that actually work as artists, that it is a viable way of, you know, maintaining yourself and using your self-expression to not only, you know, talk about our culture, but also to make a living. So we're always going to do that and improve with other contests and to get the kids involved. And it's very necessary that arts be a part of our kids' lives.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we going now, Madam Clerk?
The budget hearings have been scheduled for the following dates and times next week. 9:45 is the sheriff, 10:05 Board of Elections, 10:25 Veterans, 10:45 OSU, 11 o'clock Soil and Water, 11:15 Common Pleas. The following week, the 17th, which is also 4-H Government Day, 9:30 Probate, 9:45 Clerk Courts, 10:05 Prosecutors 4D, 10:10 Prosecutor, 10:30 Domestic. November 23rd, 9:45 Auditor, 10 o'clock Tax Map, 10:15 Coroner, 10:30 Treasurer, 10:45 Board of Revisions, 11 o'clock Recorder, and I put the Investment Advisory probably to 1 o'clock now, because it was scheduled at 11, but there's no way we're going to get that done. So
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Board correspondence?
I move the reading be waived.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Public comment?
This is the opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward to the microphone, state your name and your issue.
Shirley R. Johnson, West Oberlin. I don't have an issue right now, but I do want to second Mr. Barrios's comments about the importance of art to a community and to individual lives. It certainly has been shown in studies of schools and education that one of the first things they often cut when they have to cut is the arts and music and that sort of thing, and studies have shown that that's a great loss over the long haul to the children that we're trying to educate. The second comment I'd like to make is don't give Elizabeth and me all the credit for your having come to the League of Women Voters luncheon. They snuck that in on us, I think. But they are, and certainly was a very interesting and informative meeting. the League of Women Voters of the Oberlin area are going to do some kind of a study of county government. And as I told you, you'll probably be hearing from them more. And I'm going to see that they get a list of all the budget hearings so they can probably not come here because a lot of them work in the morning, but they can listen to it on your rebroadcast, and I hope they will because that's a good way of finding out what goes on in county government.
Thank you, Shirley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mike Ferrer. I work for the Lorain County Urban League, and I live in Lorain, Ohio. I'm here today because of a grave concern that we have. We know there's cuts everywhere. We know that everybody's hurting, and the Urban League would like to help in anything that we can. On June 20, somewhere around the end of, we all have contracts with the commissioners to provide services to young people, the most underserved young people in Lorain County. And I've been a partner with the Urban League and the commissioners for 6 years. But prior to that, I've been a partner with WIA for 21 years as I ran services for El Centro and others. When you hired Vivian Alexander and you brought her in and she started to take over the WIA, the first thing she did was disband the youth council. Maybe there was a better way, but she disbanded the youth council, which were experts in youth who had worked with youth for over 20 years. We said, that's fine. Maybe you have a better plan. We continued giving services. The Urban League has provided services for a couple of years now. The last 2 years we've had, according to your own inspections, the people have come in and audited us and done all our work, we've had a perfect record. We have delivered 15 GEDs, 7 young people have graduated from high school and gone off to college. We have jobs for 14 people placed, and these are some of the hardest people, young people to reach. They were recommended by the police department, and then we get them into WIA, or a parent who's given up on them, and then we get them into WIA. Not one of the kids that we've worked with has quit school. So we've worked very hard. We feel that we are your partners. In June, Mr. Cortez and Mary Murphy, the interim director, met with all of the service providers and gave us the news. WIA was going to be cut drastically from the federal level down. We understood. What do good partners do at that time? We went back. We understood that we were going to be working on a month-to-month contract from that point on. We were given personally $13,000 a month. We went back to our staffs. We sat down with them and said, look, they're hurting. We need to do more with less. So instead of using the $13,000, we gave back every month between $3,000 and $5,000 and continued doing the services as best we could, but also as a partner, trying to help in any way we can. Then came the shocker. On Friday, October 29th, at the end of the day, we received a letter from Mary Murphy, from the commissioners, telling us at almost 5 o'clock, that all WIA programs utilized by us, or delivered by us, are to end on Sunday.
October 29th?
October 29th. I have the packets for each of you here, so you can see the succession of these. So we were told all services end on 29th. Now, we expected that there may be changes and there may even be services that are no longer required by us. We expected that. As partners, we do what we can. But to receive a letter at the close of business on the 29th, dated the 28th, telling us that the programs end on Sunday, does one thing for sure. How do you inform your staff? They've left for the day. How do you tell the students, the young people that you serve and their parents, that you can no longer provide services to them? Because there is no plan. There's no plan with this. It's just cease and desist, which is what we have to do. As a good faith partner, we try to save money and send money back. What type of partner then tells you on the close of business on the 29th?
Let me stop you just for a second. Mr. Cortez, wasn't there other correspondence before the 29th of October about this?
I was going to let Mike finish.
I know, but
the letters that were sent out were a reminder, a courtesy letter.
That's what I
that
thought.
they had not been, there was no further extensions that had been granted. So at the end of the month, I spoke with Mary Murphy, I spoke with Frank DiTilio, and I said, we gotta get the transition, some of these kids that are still in programming, and we gotta close out. I said, we need to remind these organizations that they have been granted no further extensions. And we sent out, and in the letter it says this is a courtesy letter reminding you that there has been no further extensions, therefore the program is ending. It wasn't a termination letter, as nobody had a contract. They were all expired and they were on a month-to-month. I agree with Mike on that. And if you look at the letter, it does state in the first paragraph that this is just a courtesy. It's a reminder that that programming is ending. So, you know, that's what the letter was for. It was a courtesy. Because we need the data and we need to close out the information from them, and we gave them, we said, please provide all of this within the 2 weeks to close out the program. I think Mr. DiTilio's here, he can speak to that. He was involved with that, and Steve Morey's here too, in the back. They worked on this. Frank,
I just
is that
wanted
is that
to clarify
No,
that
no,
because I
please.
thought there was
No.
more correspondence prior to October 30th.
Let me give you the progression and all the correspondence is here. I've brought a copy for including Mr. Cortez to remind him.
Steve, come up on the other side, please.
Yeah, they're right back there. It's up to you.
Yeah. Frank, Steve, do you guys want to be up here so any questions we might have as commissioners?
Please.
I don't want to have this go back and forth with the.
No, and I
but
understand. And I just-
Commissioners have questions.
Right.
But again, and as the board authorized, we were on month-to-month extensions, and we reminded them at the end of October, they had not received anything from us indicating that there was any further extensions. We need to close out the program.
You have one for the clerk now?
You can give it to the clerk, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have copies of it.
I think, you know, when contracts expire and you go to month, I understand. It could possibly be terminated at any month. We do understand that. But when all of the service providers are brought into a room in June and told that this is going to happen, however, we're going to meet with all of you to figure out what is the best way to continue serving the kids of this county. So we're going to sit down and we're going to figure out what can we glean from this? What can we learn from you, from the services that you've provided over the years, and where do we go from here? That meeting never took place. A promise was made. We're going to meet with you before we do anything. The next thing we do is we go and we pick up the RFPs, the new RFPs for tutoring and mentoring, which is what we do. And we realize that the new system now will cut out all of the service providers. That's okay. We're not going to die for the money. It's okay as long as you're going to serve these kids. But the new system now requires that individuals basically apply, which we told our tutors, look, they'll pay you. Forget us. We keep serving the kids. And even all our staff and our master tutors who have been responsible for so many GDs because they go to the schools, they meet with the teachers, they sit down with the parents, they're social workers and tutors. They refuse to apply. They say, it just won't work. The services are no longer integrated. Before they disbanded that youth council, we came up with a good unified plan. The plan was, if there's a kid in work experience over at Boys and Girls Club, use that to leverage them to go to tutoring. Kids don't volunteer to go to tutoring, not the population that WEA was meant to serve, the hardest to reach. Mr. DiTilio, we had a conversation yesterday. He said, what you guys have over there are diversion programs. We're not in diversion. First divert them away from the drugs, then get them into the education and the jobs, and we've been able to do that. If you have a better system, it's okay. We're gonna support and work with you no matter what. But this is not how you treat a partner. Mr. Cordes can say yes. Technically, he is absolutely correct. As of the 30th, we had no contract. He's right. But he said go month to month to month. Now, on the 28th, the 29th of the month, you don't say it ceases Sunday. You say the month before, guys, it's probably going to end next month. Please contact your students. Please tell your parents. Please tell your staff. That's what a good partner does. So then we go ahead and tell them. We were forced to call people on that day, and we couldn't reach a lot of them. We were forced to now tell parents, we can't serve your kids anymore. We'll try to do whatever we can. You're going to have, in the next couple of months, you're going to have all the parents up here. We could have avoided all of this by just working together and saying, Mike, I'm sorry, we're going to run out in the next month, but not the last day. Yes, technically he is correct. He had no obligation, but that's still not what you do for partners. Partners who try to give you money back when it wasn't asked for. That's good faith. Somehow that faith was lost here. My tutors I have a young lady in the back over there, Tula Ramos. At 17, Miss Blair, you met her. You came to our youth center and you met her. She was one of our troubled youth. She now runs the WEA program. She had input into the WEA program. And I had to tell her on Friday that maybe she no longer has a job. they got from my bosses, no, we're not gonna let it go, we're gonna figure something out. We're going to figure something out. We could have figured something out. That's my point here. He's technically correct. He could have canceled that contract at any time. But good partners would have said 30 days. Next month, it won't be happening, guys. Not a close of business on the 29th. That's like saying, that's a slap in the face to good partners. And we should be about partners. My fear now is about these young people, the hardest to reach. Your new RFPs will not address them. You'll require them to have a mentor who sits in front of them for 2 hours, forced sitting in front of you for 2 hours, and that's mentoring. Are those mentors going to go to the schools and work with the teachers? You're not giving them enough hours. Are they going to meet with the parents? Are they going to really know all the other services? We are successful for one reason. We have a ton of other services. We can help the parents not to get foreclosed on the house while we're tutoring you. We can get your father a job. We can work with all of that. Are you going to be able to do that with one mentor or two mentors? Your WIA staff has very, very little experience. They really do. Mary Murphy is a fantastic person, but she has very little experience working with this type of population. The population that we're trying to serve, that you're trying to serve, so we don't fill up our jails. That's what we're really all about. I'm just saying it could have been done so much better and not left such a distaste in our mouth and having to tell employees that, hey, guys, it's over with no day notice. No one should ever have to be selected. This is a file of one individual. One individual. We're good because we don't quit. You see the posters around this county about Frank Whitfield from LCC? You see him? Eden Garden? WIA told us to quit on him 2 years ago. He's just not going to get it. We said, bull crap, we're sticking with him. The man graduated from college. He just got a big award at the Beautification Awards for all the gardens he's doing, because we don't quit. Are you going to be able to get that type of dedication from an individual mentor who's been assigned 2 hours, maybe 4 hours a week, 10 hours a month, $150 is the total? It's sad. It doesn't have to be this way. We're going to continue serving, but we're going to be monitoring what the county is doing, because the way this is set up, there's no support. It's not tied in. It's individual services now. And if we start losing these kids, we're going to be back. And so is this community. It just didn't have to come to this. It never had to come to this. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very impassioned, Mike. Thank you for your comments.
How much funding do we lose? About 35, 40%?
About 35%.
35%.
Good morning, Mr. Wright.
Good morning. My name is Fred Wright. I'm the president and CEO of the Lorain County Urban League. And I want to say good morning to the commissioners and all the other people who are here today. And you can see Mike Furr is very passionate about WIA and about young people, so am I. But what my concern with this whole issue here is that we have lost the way we do business, you know. And it used to be yesterday you could do a handshake and say, you about your word. I tell you something, I'm going to do it, and I'm about my word. If I say I'm going to do something for the Lorain County Urban League, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do something and then I turn around and do something else. That's not the way you do business. And that's what happened here with our county administrator, who was not faithful in his word. And that's the bottom line is you were not faithful in your word.
After our meeting, you came to my office with Mike, and you
It
told me if I
ain't got
give you
nothing
all
to
the
do
youth,
with
if
us
I
coming
give
to
you all
your
the youth.
office.
Yes, it
No,
does.
no. What it has to do with is you said you were going to bring all the providers back together.
That's
what you said.
I said we should have another meeting to talk about it.
Who's in here from WIA? Who has WIA contracts? Raise your hand. What was said to us? That you would bring back all of the providers before you made any decisions about WIA.
Then you decided to come to my office with
I
Mike
came
and
to
tell me
your
if I gave
office.
you their money, everything would be fine.
I came to your office to say to you that the Urban League is an organization that's looking to work with the county, in regards to these youth that we're serving. But you are not about your word, Cordes. It's simple as that.
Was there someone else in the office besides you?
No.
He brought in
Wright came to my
Rod
office. Wright
Twining.
came to my office and basically said that they have a great program, which they do have a good program, by the way. and that if we gave him the youth dollars.
No,
that
that
they
is
was
not
on the
what I
budget.
said.
Well, you know what, that's
What
what
I
I took
came,
from that
what I
meeting.
came to your office to say is that the Urban League was willing to work with the county in any type of programs that you have that's going, not just youth, all of the services that we provide. Housing, education, health. That's what I said to you.
And
But
then
the point I'm making here is that you are not a person who are about your word. That's what I'm saying.
That's
You
your-
said
that's
that
your-
you
that's
want to
your-
bring,
that's your opinion,
you said
right.
that you were going to bring the youth providers back together and get, before you made any decisions about WIA.
I never said that about before any decisions. I
You
did say
did
we
say
would get
that.
Well, you know what?
You did say that. You did say that.
You know what?
You don't tell the truth. It's simple as that. You do not tell the truth.
Well, you know what, Fred? I'll tell you what. Neither do you.
I tell the truth about everything I do, and that's why the Urban League is where it's at today. And it's not from any help from, basically help from the county.
Gentlemen.
It's simple as that. I've
Gentlemen.
never seen you step your foot in the Urban League.
Gentlemen.
Period.
Mr. Wright, you have something further to say?
Yes,
We
I
have-
do.
Okay,
Yes,
then
I
please-
do.
then
Yes,
please
I
move
do have
forward.
something further to say.
Please move forward.
I'm saying that the way that this was handled is despicable. It's despicable. You don't have a provider. And I talked with Miss Murphy in the middle of September, and I knew that this was coming. And I said, Miss Murphy, when y'all get ready to make the decision, give us 30 days to close the program down. I have staff. I have consultants. I have people who make this program go. The last straw was to receive a communication at 3:44 on Friday evening, the 29th, dated the 28th, and say the program is closed down on the 31st. Ms. Tula Ramos, who I have to pay, as my coordinator, I have to say to her, well, don't come back to work on Monday. I don't think any of us would want to have to deal with a situation like that.
No,
I don't think anybody would want to get a notice and say, you don't come back on Monday, on Friday afternoon. That's not the way to do business. That's the point I'm making.
And I appreciate that.
And so hopefully going forward, we can get a message of how we work with this population. This is a vulnerable population. Very vulnerable. Urban League and a couple of organizations are the only ones who are working with this population. And I'm hoping that the commissioners will have some sensitivity to what we do. I mean, I really never see y'all at any of our things. I don't even believe you even been in the Urban League.
But with all due respect, Fred, you have spoken to each of the commissioners about your concerns.
I
on this issue.
have,
So
and you have communicated to me just how you were presented the information. And again, the information was not presented correctly.
Well, that's a matter of opinion. I just
It's
wanted to say.
I'm going to make an example about that.
You have spoken
As far as
to
the
each of us.
contract with WIA and the county is supposed to certify the young people to send them to our program. The contract with the Urban League was for 120 young people. The county only certified 46 and sent them to us. We have been telling the county for quite a while, you need to work with us to recruit the kids and certify the kids because we got our hands on the kids. You can't be an administrator and a service provider. You are an administrator. You should administrate the funds and give them to the service providers to do the service. That's the problem. The problem is you can't do both. And that's what you're trying to do here. And I'm telling you, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I appreciate y'all letting me speak to y'all today, but I am upset about how this was handled. It was handled underhandedly. As simple as that.
And
Thank you.
we're all aware of that. Thank you, Fred, for your comments.
Fred, before you run off, you were gonna get me paperwork on when you spoke at Alan Spitzer's house. Is this what Mike gave me?
That's part of the paperwork that we were going to get you.
Okay, all right, then I
have
haven't
that,
received
and
anything
you'll
from you,
You'll
so.
be receiving some other communications from us.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say, last night there was a real message sent in this state, in this country. You better start listening at the people and working with the people who are being affected by the laws and the things that you facilitate. And people are hurting out here. And if you don't start doing that, we're going to continue to see the kind of things that happened last night.
Mike.
Thank you. My name is Mike Conaber. I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Clubs, Lorain County. Just up here in, listen to Mike, listen to Fred, just up here to express some of our concerns as an organization, youth provider here in Lorain County that serves about 800 kids a day here in Lorain County and has been a youth service provider for the past 7 years with the WIA program. Basically, as a service provider, I feel that we should have received proper notification in regards to this, in regards not only to our employees, but our participants and the kids involved in our programs. I also feel that this partnership needs to continue in some ways because we do reach those underserved kids throughout Lorain County, and we have the ability to carry out these programs in an effective manner like no one else can. You see the compassion of Mike and Fred and all of us. We're right in the heart of the cities, working hard with these kids making a difference. You know, it's hard for me to get an email on Friday and tell an employee on Monday they don't have a job. Not only that, it's displaced our kids that are in our tutoring and mentoring programs that are currently going to high school and need services for tutoring and mentoring. So we need to, the streamline of this whole transition was not carried out correctly in my eyes. So I just feel like if you're going to take the program in-house, that this partnership needs to continue somehow. And we need to look at more effective ways of, you know, the communication aspect of how we exit this program. You know, we've been a provider for 7 years. We've had some tremendous impact in this community. And I'm not just here on the Boys and Girls Club, because I see the kids in collaborative partnerships with Catholic Charities, you know, Urban League, and all of us working together with this group of kids. But like I say, you know, Friday it was a kind of a shocker. I thought we were going to continue our contracts for at least another month to give people heads up notice on their work and then for the program participants in general. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mike.
Hello.
Hi.
I hope you don't mind if I read from
No, but
my...
if you tell us your name first.
Pamela Dickey. I'm employed by the Lorain County Urban League as a tutor.
Thank you,
I'm
Pamela.
actually one of the tutors that got the phone call not to come back this week. We are displaced because of the termination of the WIA grant. I've been a WIA tutor with my husband for 4 years. During that time, we have served dozens and dozens of kids, seen successes from week to week, and sometimes not seen a success for a year or 2 years. We have several concerns about the RFP that was put out. And also, I wanted to address the fact that because you terminated us at this point, I don't know if any of you are aware that these are the weeks that our high school students are being tested for the Ohio graduation test, which they must pass to get their high school diploma. We aren't there to help them. We aren't there to talk about what the test is, to get them prepared. Although we've been working on it, we're not there during the critical time. I had to leave the Urban League yesterday and meet the students who were waiting outside for tutoring who had not gotten the message. No, there's no tutoring. You can't come in. Again, as you're aware, you've decided to separate the mentoring and tutoring components, and I'm sure your motivation was to improve or stress both areas. But in reading the RFP for tutoring and mentoring, the team of the Urban League feel you've hindered both areas. Although the new grant was to begin on December 2nd, you've terminated our contract. We didn't get to say goodbye. We didn't get to tell our students, here's what you should do in the interim. Maybe you can go get tutoring at the college. Maybe you can go to the library. There was none of that made available to us. The students depend on us to be there on their scheduled nights, and we take great pride in the fact that if we say we're going to be there, we're there. Also, I wanted to let you know that although you made that RFP available to individuals, my husband and I, who between us have 40 years of teaching experience, have chosen not to reapply for the grant. We have several concerns as educators. We're specifically concerned because no one who participated in writing that RFP has ever been at a tutoring session in 4 years. What you wrote is virtually impossible for us to live up to, but we have a successful program. Why would we change it? Why would we start all over? The RFP you created is much too limiting to serve our clients. A better approach would have been to work with the current tutors and mentors, those of us who are on the ground and actually doing this job, not sitting and writing things, and let us take the best of what we do and make improvements from there. You could have consulted us, you could have consulted the young people. What works, what doesn't work? But that's not what happened. It was taken out of our hands. And not only was it taken out of our hands, the opportunity to make a transition for these young people was completely taken. I understand many people can get a phone call that there's no more work for you next week. But we're not talking about putting in windshields or, fixing something. We're talking about kids, clients, students, a population that we have been successfully serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you. Hey, Tim.
Morning, everyone. I'm Tim Williams from the Elyria YWCA. And this was a very challenging process, or maybe lack of process. There was a process that occurred, and perhaps that process retrospectively could have been done a little differently. It's not necessarily who has a right to do something, but is it the right thing to do or the right way to do it? And unfortunately, what happens when one challenges the integrity of the process, it makes them start to go backwards in their mind and challenge the integrity of the intent or whatever. And I'm not saying that as a character assassination on anyone, but that's what happens in the mind. We knew there were some critical changes. We believe that changes were needed. We knew that efficiencies were needed. The program needed to be improved. I think you could ask any provider in terms of their level of satisfaction with the overall program, and no one would have been satisfied, because based on what we do and what our desire is to do, it wasn't being done as well as we believe it could have been done. That's from our side. That's from the side of referrals, from the reality that it might take a kid who've got all the paperwork and information 30 days, 60 days to actually get enrolled. There were some breakdowns throughout the entire piece. I appreciate the desire to repair and fix the program, to increase the quality of service. But the process by which that was done perhaps has done more harm than good. I don't believe that it's irreparable. I think if we can all back up and reassess how we've done this, perhaps we can find a measure that might give more credibility to the entire thing. We as providers, people who write grants, we know we're in the money and we're out of the money. We've been funded and defunded. That's the way it goes. That process usually makes us better, because if you want to keep competing to deliver the service, you have to have the capacity to compete. This process that we've gone into now, which is very frightening, and I understand, I believe that you all applied for a waiver, and that waiver was designed to allow communities to have more flexibility and to probably create more efficiencies in how they deliver services. There's the spirit of that is very real. However, sometimes those little pieces can be manipulated to do something else. Now, I'm not saying that's what was done, but that begins to feel like what was done. We've eliminated the process of procurement. We no longer, it was told to us that a service was going to be done in-house, which means there's no competition to bid on it. There's no new opportunity to improve, to see what they want to see, and then address that. So this process has not benefited from whatever experience, be it good or bad, that we as providers, we as youth expert providers have in this field. I'm not talking about the quality of any of us. I'm not talking about how we're evaluated. We can look at the evaluations and gather that. When you have folks who've been continually funded for year after year after year, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with them, but I'm saying that if you keep doing something, then there's an inference that maybe it's not all broken. The other piece of this, which is kind of unique, is last year we submitted our proposals, or 2 years ago, on, I believe it was May the 5th. And because the summer stimulus piece came into play, changed a lot of dynamics. Those RFPs were not addressed. So what happened is we did a carryover contract. We just said, hey, we're not going to do this right now. We came back, and I believe on October 9th, we received our contracts to continue service. Now, what happened even in that window is the RFP was submitted on May the 5th. Services are supposed to be engaged by July 1. That didn't happen. They had the information. We did not get a contract until dated October the 9th. Our program ended on what would have been September 30th. We had one window, whereas the providers had to pay their staffs. You had an RFP from May 5th, and you created and even though the contract ended on a certain date, there was a window of 10 days. It's very unreasonable. So automatically people challenge the process of how efficient is the government side of this thing. So, you know, we know times are hard. Going to month-to-month contract, we knew there was going to be a change. We were in the first month of the second quarter. I had a month-to-month contract starting on what would have been July 1, then September, then October. Each time we would get our invoices back, get our payments, it would be a little letter reminding us of our month-to-month contract. You are on a month-to-month contract. We did have a meeting in June. And I was there, and I have not had a meeting with anybody. No one. And I respect that, and I respect those folks who have to advocate. I expect that my director probably talked to someone. So we've had concern for some time. We were all at that meeting. We knew there was going to be a change, but we took away from that the inference that there was going to be some ongoing communication in the process. Now, not only did we not have communication, I'll be honest, I would ask a youth service specialist, hey, what's going on? I don't know. We don't know. No one knew. I could talk to employees in the workforce development piece. None of them knew what was going on. I don't know who was communicating with who, but I know we weren't communicated with. And that's very challenging when you've been engaged in, if I look at email correspondence, and I look at the correspondence that I had with WDA staff prior to this versus during this, you can see it clearly. Correspondence. Then there's this vacuum of silence. Now, if I'm looking back at it and I look at what was going on, that's challenging. We have to protect the integrity of what we do because we're linked together. And how we provide services, and the fact that I got an email on 3/50 on the 29th saying service would end on the 31st, sure, you can do that if you think that that's a reasonable thing to do. And if you all believe that's reasonable, okay. I challenge how reasonable it is. I challenge how necessary it was. You have the authority to do things however you wish to do them. But our respect, our appreciation, our desire to partner, you know, we're stuck in a relationship together because how we deliver services in our communities. If everybody were stepping back saying, do I want this? Is this the kind of partner that I would voluntarily want to sign up with? I'm not sure. At the last, there wasn't even a bidder's contract with this last RFP. Everything was so uniquely different. We saw things that we've never seen before over the last 8 years. And it was very different. The process was different. The outcome was different. At the last bidders conference we went to, there was only one new provider who showed up at that thing. Everybody knows money's tight. A year ago, we have folks. There's $800,000, $600,000 on the table, and the only folks who showed up to actually ask for a contract to deliver services were your previous providers. That's an indicator that there might not be something that's going quite so smoothly. So I would suggest that we back up, have some conversations. Your decision is the ultimate one, but you get to choose how you get to that decision. And I would suggest that this process that we are presently in is very flawed, and we have the capacity, the intelligence to have some measure of correction. So I would strongly urge you to consider if we can take a few steps back and figure out how do we get to where we're going, because 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're still in the game, y'all still in the game, we're doing this. It's a question of how we're going to work together going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Tim. Anyone else want to address the board?
Well, I just want to say I had run into Fred Wright at the Beautification Awards ceremony, and he did mention the fact that there was to be a second meeting, and I addressed that to Mr. Cortez this past Wednesday, which was, the 27th. And then on the 29th is when the letters went out.
The letters went out were a reminder that we hadn't gotten any additional extensions.
I was under the assumption that because there was such a 30% cut in funding that we had to do something, and I thought we were taking the administration part of it in-house and then doing RFPs.
We did.
Okay, so we're not saying that these people are not our partners anymore. They just have to follow the RFP process, is what I understood.
Well, what
Correct.
the RFP process currently does, it was going to individuals versus organizations
Well,
is what it's.
Well, both are correct. In fact, the Boys and Girls Club has made a proposal to continue on with They made a mentoring proposal and also a tutoring proposal to the Boys and Girls Club, and their mentoring proposal was very interesting. It was something that we hadn't looked at before, and it stirred up quite a bit of discussion. So nobody was bought. Why don't we let Mr. DiTilio explain what we were trying to accomplish with a few of those things from the WIB perspective, and have some dialogue on it. And I agree with Mr. Williams. The RFP process was different. They were different RFPs this time. They were looking at services from a delivery method that was different, and maybe he can explain some of that.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Frank.
I'd like to first state that I certainly appreciate Mike's comments, and I appreciate everybody's comments, Tim's comments, Fred's comments. As WIB chair, one of the things that really confronted us in this last round was the reduction of about 35% of our funds. And we certainly were concerned with those kind of issues, with how we were going to deliver the program and make sure that our processes were going to, reach the kind of goals and objectives that everybody, I think, in this room is looking for. We set about to try to resolve some of those issues. I know that there's some changes in the RFP, in the way that we look at doing things. They may not be the best in this circumstance. I don't know. I mean, we haven't got it on the ground and started to see whether it works or it doesn't work. I do respect the fact that the input from the actual deliverers of service, we probably didn't do enough of that. When I look back and I hear the comments, I think that it's really important for us as partners to have the respect of our partners. In this Friday letter to advise them that as a courtesy to let them know that this is no longer going to occur. I'm like torn about that. I really think that I certainly would not like to be in that position, and I can certainly recognize their processes. I was assuming that as the WIB chair, that in our conversations with regards to the fact that we were trying to do this in a running process, that contracts were really up on June 30. That's when the contracts were up. And because of the fact that we were really wrestling with the state, trying to find out why we were put in a position to have 35% reduction in funds, and trying to make some significant moves in strategies that were going to benefit the process and try to get more money, that we put ourselves in a situation where we ran up to a deadline. And we said, look, maybe the smartest thing to do is to go to our partners and tell them we're going to do contract extensions, month-to-month contract extensions. In that process, we probably, I'm hoping that July they received a letter that there was, or in late June they received a letter that there would be an extension. I hope they received the letter at the end of July. I hope they received the letter at the end of August and at the end of September, indicating that the following month they were going to have an extension of the contract. Doesn't seem like either there wasn't a October letter at the beginning of the month indicating that that there was not going to be an extension, and probably in hindsight, I think that certainly from a perspective of a partner, we probably, I probably need to, sit down and talk with Mary and find out, from that perspective, where that broke down, if it did break down. I don't have a file with a pile of records and letters that I can peruse and make a decision on. But certainly, I think that we know that we're going to be, working on this issue as we move forward. I don't think that we figured that this was the end-all, be-all. I think that, certainly we need to have more engaging conversations. I think that we need to talk specifically with providers in a different way to find out why our approach is not the right approach. I think that's important, especially if we're going to look at trying to deliver a program that's going to meet the needs of the community. And I think that that's one of the most important parts of we didn't try to put a situation in place that was going to make this a worse situation than it was before. We were looking at trying to make this a better providing of services to the community. Anytime you get confronted with a reduction in as much, it wasn't a minor reduction in funds. 35% is a lot of money that's reduced to get back on the street. And that was certainly a major concern to us. And we wanted to make sure that we were going to spend that money properly. So, I certainly will defer to whatever the commissioners would like to do. But we need to move forward and get the best situation out there so that we can deliver the services to the kids.
Well, Frank, in retrospect, like I said, I don't know what the paper trail is, and other than what they gave us. Probably, not probably, it should have, the 30 days should have been given 30 days notice at the end of October. We won't be continuing the contract.
Right.
I know because of the cuts we've had, we're trying an alternate way of providing service that isn't as comfortable for our service providers as it was in the past. But we still have that mix of student youth that have to be serviced somehow, and how is that gap being done this month? If we don't have the RFPs back, who's
We do have them back, Commissioner, and
No, who's providing service November 3rd?
In fact, the parts of the WIB board met, and Steve Morey, as the chair of the Youth Council, met to look over the proposals we received during the RFP processes, and I was going to introduce a few of those things to you this morning, and then, of course, I heard about this meeting, so we held back on that. But we do have the ability to provide, to have vendors providing services.
Okay, so we don't have a donut hole the kids are all falling through then?
Well, that was the concern. That certainly was a concern.
Hang on. Thank you, Mike. And I got to get through the process, okay? Thanks.
That certainly was a concern. I think that a part of the reason why we went through and approved contracts for November is to be able to be in a position to have some impact on that.
You did approve contracts for November?
We set approvals for you to take a look at.
And that's what you were going to talk to us about this morning?
I was, and then I understood that we were going to have folks up here with their concerns, so I just left it sit on the desk for now until we had these discussions. There was several different directional issues. I wasn't aware that Tim Williams apparently had a discussion with Mary Murphy in the middle of September. I wrote that down here. I don't know anything about that. Mary Murphy couldn't be here this morning. She's down in Akron trying to keep us engaged with a new initiative from the Fund for Our Economic Future with regard to dislocated workers and some new programming that may be coming out. So we have her at the table to keep Lorain County engaged with that process. But so she wasn't able to be here to respond to a few things. But the way that these things are being looked at, the biggest change was trying to get into a virtual contracting scenario, so we weren't having a lot of administrative costs, a lot of brick and mortar costs, and a lot of those bills, and trying to consolidate so that we, we had a clear line of sight to being able to control costs and bring them down, yet provide the services that were necessary. Some people disagree with philosophically the direction that's being taken. The state went through a lot of trouble to get a waiver from the Department of Labor to be able to do some of these changes. And correctly so, a few folks have spoken to that waiver process during their dialogue this morning. And we're looking to take some opportunity to work underneath that waiver and try to redirect the way we do some business. I wish I could tell you I had a crystal ball and tell you we were right. I'm not completely sure, and I don't think Frank is completely sure on that. There was some miscommunications here, and I knew about some of the miscommunications actually going in, but we have to get something done. As far as what Mr. Ferrara was talking about with regard to mentoring in 2 hours and sitting in front of him, I think that's a misrepresentation. Actually, what it calls for is a certain, we call them touches, a certain amount of contact time, a certain amount of touches, but those are minimums, so that we have a standard guideline so we can measure what we're receiving when we pay for a contract. So this isn't only this amount. It's a minimum criteria of what we would consider acceptable performance, and then build upon that. So most of the things that were in the RFP are minimum performance standards and measurable performance standards, so that we can see if things are working and be able to track this and be able to make reporting that's been difficult to make in the past. So it's been challenging, especially with regard to the reduction of funding, and we worked very diligently last year and this year to try to manipulate the stimulus dollars to make them go further in the youth dollars. And again, as Mr. Titilio said, we were shocked when we got a cut in our youth programming, but the cuts came all over the state. And we're anticipating that there's probably going to be another round of cuts, so we need to be prepared for that possible conclusion by having a different structure about how we provide services. Everybody was eligible to put in for RFPs. I can understand some organizations felt challenged in the new processes and what we were asking for. Some did offer proposals and some didn't. And we're probably gonna be going out again. We had discussed it last week with another round of RFPs, trying to engage some of the new partners and some of the old partners. But we have to fundamentally change the way we're doing business, because the money to do it the way we were doing it before absolutely is not there. But some of the challenge we faced is, and as soon as we had that first meeting and we met with folks, and I have to say there's some accuracy to the fact that I thought we were going to have more meetings. Well, some of the folks left that meeting and immediately started calling 1-800-MY-COMMISSIONER and started complaining to you guys and trying to stop the whole process and everything else. So it became apparent to me that they didn't want to partner with us. They didn't want to partner with the WIB board and the people at WDA and talk about these direction issues, because as soon as they left the meeting, they were calling you guys complaining about what were we doing to them, rather than accepting that we had to change some things. So after talking with Frank and a few of the other folks, we decided they didn't want to partner with us. It's easy for them to sit out there and barrage me sitting up here with that, but those things occurred. It's
called self-preservation, Jim. That happens all the time.
It is, but they talk about partnership, they talk about the desire to want to do things together, but then they some of them go behind the scenes to accomplish their self-motivating goals, and then they accuse us of the very same things. So the conduct was such that it prevented us from believing that they wanted to be partners.
At this point, though, our biggest concern is, and no offense to the youth providers or to the WIB, is we've got to find a way to get the tutors and mentors back out on the streets and touching the kids, as you said.
Right.
How soon is that?
Yeah,
or how
well,
quickly?
I really think that, I just wanted to make one more point, and that is that from my perspective, and certainly from the people who we worked with on staff and things, I never believed, nor do I ever believe, that when you put something like this in place, that it's pretty concrete. I think that what we need to do is understand that we were getting ready to move in another direction because of some outside processes, i.e. funding. And that we certainly, I certainly would hope that we would be working very closely with the providers to find out how we can make this a better process, but still be in a situation where we can reduce the amount of funds that we're spending. Because there is a reduction. And the problem, I think one of the things of our concern for us was that we wanted to make sure that more dollars went to direct service for the youth because there was less money. If you continue to do it the way it was, instead of servicing 100 kids, you had a reduction of 35% of funding, you'd only service 70 kids. And we didn't see that as a solution. We tried to get ourselves into a position where we said, how can we still service 100 with 35% less money? And so that's the dilemma that we were in. I mean, none of this stuff was done with any negative intentions at all. I mean, we were hoping that we could move into a new era of delivery of service to meet the needs of the people. And like I said, I certainly respect everyone's opinion about that. And I think that going forward, we need to have a stronger dialogue. And I don't think that there's any reason why, as we look to add additional RFPs to complete the program year, that we aren't going to make some significant changes that address some of the issues that we heard this morning. I think we need to do that.
Yeah, I'm glad we recognize that we could have done things a lot better than we did. There could have been a second meeting. There is in the second paragraph that was sent out to Mr. Wright that you gave me a copy of, it says the WDA staff will make arrangements to meet with you and your staff within the next 10 days to complete a program closeout. So I would hope that in that 10 days that you were going to meet with those people, that you would get some input from them on how to better serve those kids. So,
Commissioner, I think that letter is in response to just the final numbers and the finances. The October 28th letter that we're going to meet with them, it wasn't to go back to talk about programming. It was to close out the book.
right, and then final billing for WIA youth programs will be no later than November 15th, 2010. But yeah, I think we definitely need to sit down with them and try to figure out how we can service as many kids as possible with the limited amount of funding that we have.
Well, I think currently, though, Commissioner, in response to that, though, they found an alternate way of wanting to provide the service, correct? And we're through the RFP process now. So we have providers, new ones and some old ones, correct, Jim? That are.
Yes.
Okay. And
That we haven't acted on.
I don't believe we
Yes.
have enough providers.
We don't.
I think we need to do more RFPs and do whatever we have to do to.
You need to get close to the microphone. You're getting yelled at in the back.
I think that we have planned to go out with some new RFPs. I think that before that happens, I believe we need to have some conversations.
A
so
broader
that-
scope of
a broader
service
scope of
possibly?
service possibilities, so that we can meet some of the needs that are out there. I mean, we certainly appreciate the people who have picked up RFPs and completed them, and we think that we're going to get some good process out of that. We just don't think that it's going to be enough to meet the needs that's out there, and we want to make sure that we can design some new RFPs that will help us understand how to better do that process.
We have enough to start with, but I don't think we have long enough legs going through the year, but we have enough to start with. Some of the things that used to be outsourced that are not even out for RFP, one of the big ones is work experience. That was one of the biggest struggles with DOL for the waivers on how to do work experience. And we're not the only ones. We didn't initiate that waiver. that came out of dialogue on WIBs across the state with regard to what they wanted to see different in the work experience, and a requested waiver by the state of Ohio to revisit the way those services were provided to those youths that are eligible. And something I have to say here, because a lot of folks that do tune into this don't know, but youth goes all the way up to 24 years old. Right, so we're not talking about 14, 13, 15 years old. Sometimes people misunderstand that youth dollars are used from age, generally speaking, from age 16 to 24, depending on the type of programming they may be in. So we're talking about some, youth, but a lot of young adults that are being serviced.
We actually looked to try to get a waiver to see if we could change the age from 16 to 14, because we thought we needed to have more earlier touches.
Right.
Other way around.
There.
It's for 14 under formula. I think it was 16 under the stimulus dollars. So again, DOL came out with some conflicting guidelines on that too. So was the stimulus was 16, right, Tim? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it gets very, very complicated, but the state did achieve the waiver. They did send guidance down under the waiver with regard to work experience and some of the things that can be done. And change is always difficult, and we're going through those difficult times right now with regard to changing on the program. And you've had dialogue with the providers, the older providers. They've talked to you, and you guys have talked to us. So we knew this was going to be challenging from the onset.
I'd like to address, if we can, the RFPs award, so we don't have that. I believe Pam was her name when she spoke about the OGT, and that you don't want to have where we lose those kids at that point. If we didn't award the RFPs prior to eliminating the month-to-month contracts, I think we had a void there that probably should have been filled and addressed regardless of who got the contract.
And there's still the opportunity to do that with the information you have available.
Certainly,
today.
the mentor. Well, we can do those contracts. I'll have to get them. And the second thing is, we can certainly use the RFP and pay the rates that we're willing to pay for tutoring services for those children. And the tutors from any of the organizations are more than eligible to be put on the list of tutors and assigned to tutoring opportunities. That's still available. It's still there.
Well,
And
Jim, I have a question for you, going
Yes.
so I don't lose my train of thought. We went through this with the Children's Family First Help Me Grow program. We
Yes.
came up with a bottom line number
Right.
that the others, so we could get all the services provided,
Correct.
met that baseline number. Is that available through the federal
Yes.
procurement part?
Yes. When they say competitive bidding, they don't talk about really dollars and cents with the federal government. They talk about access. The competitive bidding is to allow multiple people to have access to provide services. It does allow you to capitate the rates and establish a base rate, as if you indicated we did with Children and Family First a while back when we had massive cuts there.
Correct. That's what I'm
And-
trying to.
Yes, and with
if
the
I can compare those and give me some guidance, if that
Sure.
works the same way, if we have a base rate of, I think somebody said 150 an hour, or 150, there was a number.
What we did was on the tutoring, we capitated that rate, and we said how much half an hour of a tutoring would be paid for a group and an individual. Because sometimes there's group tutoring opportunities. They're not as strong as the individual tutoring, but they do exist, and it does get us economies of scale. The second capitation came down with the mentoring services, where we were looking for mentors, but the feeling was generally that they didn't want mentors working with more than 5 youth, and there was a capitated rate that they would be paid for each youth that they mentored over the course of a year. And then there was minimum guidelines about how much time and the different activities they had to do with the assignment of the person. It was also the general feeling that gave us a stable of mentors and tutors that could be mixed occasionally to more fully pair people with consumers that gave them the best blend of what worked for them. Sometimes one size fits all doesn't necessarily work. So, and we also set the bar for qualifications for the mentors and the tutors that were quite high, very extensive. With regard to tutoring, you had to have a teaching certificate to be a tutor. Up until this point, just about anybody could have been a tutor. There was no requirement. We also set the bar on mentoring with licensed social workers, people that were practitioners in the field, teachers, people that generally worked in those environments. So we were trying to credential the people that we were using. At the same time, we were trying to lower costs and provide greater services. Again, I'm not telling you that we're 100% there, that it's going to work. It was some drastic changes, but while reducing costs, we were trying to elevate the qualifications of the people that were going to be in contact with these youth. And you know, again, these type of changes usually cause these types of disruptions.
These two people were waiting to speak, so I would like to recognize you now.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tula Ramos, and I am the coordinator for the mentoring and tutoring program for the Urban League. And I just simply wanted to ask, what happens to the kids? Do they continue to provide service for the clients that are already active? I don't know the reasoning behind. I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as the criteria that you're asking for mentors. As a mentor, I don't even qualify for what you just stated. Like, I don't have a degree with social work or anything like that. My actual degree is with criminal justice. That's what I chose to do. But I believe what makes me a good mentor is the fact that I'm compassionate and I understand where these children come from because I come from the same place that they come from. And that's what made me an effective mentor. And that's what made them connect with me. I had 2 of my participants cry because I told them, you know, this is the last day of the program. I'm sorry, but there's really not much I can do about it. And I'm not really even concerned about my job. I'm really not, because the fact that I have my degree, I can easily go get another one. But what my concern was is that what happens, do my clients still continue to get service, the ones that are being provided service as of Friday the 29th? Do they still continue to provide service? Is there just a slight gap between now and then?
Obviously, there's going to be a slight gap. But they will be available for services, and all the organizations that are affected will be able to access the services that are still out there. And this fell under that, you know, we were going to have a stable of services so we can assign people to go to different organizations and meet with different children. I think the RP also spoke to relevant experience with regard to mentoring. It wasn't a closeout, you know, could not participate. So those that had worked in the field and had, you know, strong relative experience were also acceptable to be reviewed for that. And I would ask to take a look at that, because I think that you probably have, not probably, you do have relevant experience. Right. So it wasn't simply saying that if you have this, that you're okay. I think we were responsible enough to know that there was practitioners in the field that had worked a very long period of time, and that in itself qualified them for opportunities.
Now, will my clients be contacted when services provided, when your RFPs are all
And that's
in
one
order?
of the things that we were trying to do with getting the information and having the staff, everybody meet and gather that information, so that we can transition what we need to transition. Because currently we don't have good reporting that gives us a clear understanding of who's being serviced completely where and with what, and that was another problem with our system. It was a bit flawed on that, and we didn't do a lot of follow-up, and that made it difficult. You know, one of the things we were challenged with is the state set the bar very, very low for what was an acceptable performance of a program. And I'll liken it to, you know, a basketball game where the basket's 10 feet tall. Well, the states didn't say you had to dunk the ball at 10 feet. They said if you dunk it at 3 feet, you're being successful. And, you know, we failed in 2 of those 3 measurements. Well, we've been able to go back, dig through the paperwork, and work really, really hard and come up with one additional change that appears now will qualify us that we passed one of those 2 that we failed before. So I'm happy with that, but it's still only a 3-foot dunk to be successful. I would like us to be a lot higher than that, and it's very challenging to do that. And I know there's a lot of people out there working hard towards doing that, but we have not been as completely successful in those things as we need to be with the state, and they've been you know, back on us to improve our performance and change the way we're doing business also. So we're getting pushed from both ends of this equation.
Thank you, Tula. Next gentleman.
Morning, Commissioners and audience. My name is James Dickey, and I'm a guardian ad litem for Lorain County Children's Services, court appointed. Also, I'm father-in-law of Pam Dickey. What I'm hearing this morning is very disturbing. I've had 41 years of experience in management with Ford. You talk about cuts. I've been through cuts in my lifetime. I've been through 50% cuts. I've been through 30% cuts. The way you handled this cut is not acceptable. It's close to unethical. I hear a lack of concern. There's not enough enthusiasm going forward with this program. I heard a scenario over a 4-month period of time that I assumed this, you assumed that. You sent a letter and you hoped he got it. Another month you sent another letter, you hoped he got it. Those are not words that are used when you are aggressively attacking or going after funding. You have to follow up and follow up and follow up again. You have to become a thorn in somebody's side to make them hear you. That is not happening in this program that I can see just from being in this audience. And then to get a call on Friday afternoon that, I'm sorry, your program's been cut, you don't come to work Monday morning? No, that's not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Next.
I am Kathy Michelle Dickey, his wife for 48 years. Anyway, but I am a guardian ad litem. I am a sub in the Amherst school system and others. I have received these children. They have approached me. They know who I am, and they are happy with the teaching that they are getting on the level. They would not have any place else to go after school if they did not go to the teaching projects that are provided by we at this time. I've heard nothing but money. No children spoken of here that are out on the streets tonight. As a guardian ad litem for 20 years, I have also received children, good children, that have bad history, parenting history. These teachers are also giving guidance and moral support to these children, and they are off the streets. They don't come in readily. They just don't walk through the door. Hey, here I am, help me. There are GEDs going out of this WE program all the time. These GEDs provide that they can go into the armed services. They can go on to college. One young lady was helped to write her admission and has been accepted at college. Without this one letter, she would not have gone. And she did not know how to begin, but she's there. Again, the GEDs work. These teachers sit in the middle of 4 desks. This is your group effort. He sat in the middle of the desks, and he turns from one to another to another to another. Different grade levels, different educational capabilities on each one of those students that are there voluntarily. One young man came through the door, and he sat quietly for months. Don't know how long. But all of a sudden, he trusted. He is in this program right now. He is trusting you to continue it and give a chance. They're out the door tonight. They're gone. We have one young girl that needs to take her GED. And what will she become? Who is she? If you take the money away now, we'll never see her again. She needs to take the test. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dickey. Janine?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Janine Donaldson, Elyria YWCA. I'm a little tired. I drove up from Columbus this morning to be with you all. First of all, I'd like to say, well, Tim Williams is our employer for the youth program that we have. And first of all, I'd like to say it's kind of a misnomer to call us youth providers, the provider agencies, because really what we've been doing is being your youth council. Now this morning I heard we have a youth council, and that's probably the first time that I've heard we have a youth council, so I don't know when you all formed that, but it's nothing that was known to us. And back to calling us provider agency, the reason why I take exception with that is because, you know, we touch so many kids between Boys and Girls Club, Urban League, the courts, the YWCA. We touch so many kids that other folks don't want to handle. You mentioned they go up to age 24. On any given day, we've got kids walking through the YWCA doors that most people are afraid to see. They give the appearance of being gangbangers, or they give the appearance of being skinheads, or girls that are just out on the street. But these are kids that are coming to their tutoring programs because they're held at the Y. These are kids that meet regularly with Mr. Williams and Mr. Ferrer, and they're working every day on their self-esteem. They're going to LCC. They're going to their internship at Farmers Insurance Company. Things of this sort. And so that's really what I want to tell you, is that we're more than just contractors. We are partners, but we're also acting at, when we come together for our meetings, we're coming together usually to find out, well, what's going on? Where are the summer jobs for kids? How can we be more proactive in the faith-based community to get them more engaged with kids? So we've been filling that void. So I really would like to have more conversations on when the Youth Council started again. We had designated a letter back in October, and I just want to read it to you because it kind of summarizes our feelings more than what I can tell you right now. It says, we, the undersigned agency directors, are writing to express our concern about the lack of information regarding existing and future contracts with the Workforce Investment Board. Several months ago, at a meeting of provider agencies to discuss possible changes, we were told that a follow-up meeting would occur. To date, that has not happened, and the only written communication we receive is monthly notifications of our extensions. And as you know, we just got notification on Friday that our contracts were terminated. We are also concerned because we have seen a dramatic slowdown and in some cases a shutdown of the referral process of eligible youth to our programs from WIA, which is the only way each of our programs can attain the targeted number of youth participants that is stipulated in our contracts. Of further concern is the fact that we continue to be on a month-to-month basis for contract extension. The problem with this is that a 30-day notice does not allow for adequate time to plan for the dissolution of a program if warranted. However, more importantly, we believe that the program and services offered to hard-to-serve youth is a model that has been highly successful for them, their families, and this community. As representatives of community-based programs that span the spectrum of hard-to-serve youth by diversity, ethnicity, and geography, we are requesting that a meeting be held as soon as possible with representatives of WIB and WIA to discuss the process moving forward. It is important to note that our combined agencies receive approximately $500,000 from the Workforce Investment Act. Any major redesign of the program or contractual changes between agencies at such a late date in the fiscal year and without prior notice will have a severe economic impact, not just on youth, but on our agencies, and shift the balance disproportionately among the funding agencies such as United Way, the Mental Health Board, and local foundations. In an environment that is already so challenged economically, we feel that a change at this time would be a moral breach of good faith. And this is respectfully submitted by Mike Conabear, Boys and Girls Club, Fred Wright, Lorain County Urban League, Janine Donaldson, Victor Leandri, El Centro. And in my closing comments, I'd like to say that I rarely come before the commissioners. I know that I had a phone conversation with Betty Blair asking, you know, if there's going to be changes, how are we going to be notified, and she told me how to go through the proper channels. And And so at this point in time, what I'd like to do is just respectfully request WIB board minutes for the last, probably since March or April. And I'm asking this because I try to go through the right protocol. And currently, Mary Murphy, I guess she is the director. I know for several months she's been the interim director, and just recently it's been director, so we weren't notified that we even had a staff person to talk to. And the emails that we've been sending, some are responded to and some aren't. And even in this RFP process, as stated, there was no pre-bid meeting. And I think even in the RFP process, it even prohibited us after submitting the bid from talking to anybody, and I wasn't real sure about that. So therefore, I would like to request the minutes, and would like to know of Mary's status. Let's see, anything else? Oh, and would like to also know when the waiver extension date was granted and anything that went along with that. And one other thing. Out in the course of doing what we do, we run into WIB board members. And frankly, they tell us they don't know anything about this. I don't want to name names, but I can. I mean, you guys know who I know. Bill Locke, Homer Verdon, Mary Santiago. And, you know, they're saying, well, we don't know about these changes. Tell us more. But again, don't want to violate the procedures. I want to talk directly to Mary Murphy. I want to talk to who I need to talk to, follow the proper channels. And so, you know, I don't feel like I have the time to do that now, since as of November 1st, our contract is terminated. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. A couple of thoughts. My concern is that the service keeps being extended and or offered to these youth. And I think from your comments, Mr. Cordez, I heard that you have bids to present to us.
There's proposals. Mr. DiTilio has vetted them. With regard to the WIB board meetings, I'm certainly sure that the chairman of the WIB board has those. I will leave with this. I don't want to name names either, but if the members of the WIB board would show up for the meetings, they may know what's going on. Okay? We have the attendance records. Okay? So you can line them up with what's being done. It's been very challenging getting the mandatory members to come to the WIB board meetings and on a regular basis to be able to make sure that the information flow is staying very accurate. Now, Frank, you're sitting there. How difficult has been getting a lot of the mandatory members to attend meetings on a regular basis?
Challenging. It's been challenging.
Well, see, Mike, they're mandatory members. Okay, you can't replace them. That's.
It works out great. No, it doesn't work out good at all.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. You and I, again, are not really in disagreement.
I mean, you know,
but
we're frustrated. We're frustrated with this process. You know, here we have a lot of money for both adult and youth, that we need decisions to be made, recommendations. We need to vet those kind of things. And when you get 9 people show up for a meeting and you're supposed to have.
It works out perfectly. You don't have to run it by anybody because no one shows up to the meeting.
You know, you can't not, just because they don't show up for meetings, you cannot move forward.
It sounds like your process is pretty challenged, which has created a challenge for our process.
it has.
Yeah,
it has.
absolutely.
Tim, I think that's very accurate. I do.
You're right.
You
Tim.
know.
That's why, you know, that's why this you know, Cordez has spent about 5 months trying to convince me that I needed to do this, because it is challenging, because I have a lot of other things that I have to do. But this is really an important thing. That's why I agreed to do this, because it is ultimately important not only for the county, but it's important for the youth of this community and the adults of this community to have an opportunity to go to work, to have a job, to have employment, to get an education, to get in the stream so that they can become productive people. It's really important. It's important to me, as the president of the Lorain County Chamber of Commerce, that our economy is healthy. And we can't do that without having, processes in place. Please do.
You're not allowed to speak from the audience. You have to
Conversation through
come up.
the chair, please. Come
And
to
I'd
the
just like to
microphone.
say something, so we've got to hear. Frank DiTilio doesn't get paid to be WIB chair. This is a volunteer civic responsibility, and he goes through all this, so it's not something like it's his job or he's paid to do it.
And I agree, and I respect Mr. Tilio for that. The point I want to make with the WIB board, if it's not working in the manner that it should, I liken it to the board of directors of the Lorain County Urban League. I go through the same thing. But what I do, if there are people who are appointed or not, I communicate or have it communicated to them that you're not fulfilling your responsibility in being on this board. And so if that's the case, then there needs to be communication, whether they're appointed, elected, volunteer. This is important.
Fred,
The WIB board is important. So it needs to function in the way that it should. And if folks, whether it's Bill Locke, Vernon, Homer Verdon, whoever, if they're not fulfilling their responsibility, there needs to be communication to replace them. As simple as that.
And I agree with you. So I just wanted to address what you're saying.
Comments can come through the chair, Mr. Cordes. Yes, you may.
Thank you. I apologize, Madam Chair. Through the chair to Mr. Wright.
Thank you.
We've never done that.
No, I don't think we've ever done that before, but I agree with you 100%. What we did about 8 months, maybe less than a year ago, is we redid all the bylaws, trying to stimulate people to go to the meetings. One of the things we did was, and we got a lot of flack from a lot of the mandatory partners. And again, I don't want to leave it out there as Homer or Bill or anybody else. I just
was making an example. That was an example.
I just wanted to let that, so that I don't want to get a call frantically from them.
I understand.
But we made it so if they missed a certain amount of meetings, they couldn't even vote, until they made a 2 meetings in a row, so they get voting status back. We thought that would encourage them to make more meetings to make sure that they can stay engaged, and it really didn't work. And we've tried calls, and that didn't work. We had to go to the members present.
We're getting ready to ask us to change a date from Friday to a Thursday makes more sense.
Right, and then we also, one of the problems we were having was people started sending alternates who were sending alternates who were sending alternates, and they weren't communicating any of that information. And so the very folks that we needed to be engaged with, while they had a representative at the meeting, the information wasn't working through that organization. So the bylaws were once again changed to indicate that the chief administrative official of that organization had to be at the meeting. And boy, we caught a lot of flack over that one too. If you see Mr. Tulio just rolling his eyes there, if it was as easy as just removing people from the board, we don't have that authority, because I would say half of their WIB board is made up of mandatory partners that must be on the WIB board. And then there was times we couldn't even do business because there wasn't a quorum. So then we had to change that to members present representing a quorum so that we can get business done. I know this frustration, Fred, and you and I sometimes we get a little frustrated with each other. It's what's happened before will probably happen in the future. But I do respect what you're saying. I really do. And I know there's been some communication issues. But we're dying out here trying to get this stuff done, just like you guys are. We're trying to do the right thing like you're trying to do the right thing. I know that. Sometimes our right things conflict a little bit, but I think we both have the best interest of this community at heart.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that for me in this county, the way that we need to put the structure together to do business has to be really looked at and changed. We got people who care in this community, who put in a lot of hours, whether they're paid or volunteer. Y'all see me everywhere.
Yes,
because the fact of the matter is I care about what happens in this community, and I need to be there to hear and be able to go back to my constituents and say, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. This is how you navigate this certain entity. But we need to come together Is she, what's going on in Lorain County? It's this. This what's going on. The providers feel like the commissioners, we against the commissioners, against Mr. Cordes, against Frank. Nobody sits down at the table and communicates and say, okay, this is the public and private sector, this is our constituency, and this is how we need to work cohesively together. We don't do that. You know, we kind of look at each other and say, oh, well, he don't like me, or I don't think she like me, or
Fred,
it's
I know
personal.
you. I
It's
know you
personal.
like me. No,
It's
come on.
personal. It's a lot of personal stuff that
No,
happens
it's
in
not
Lorain County.
personal.
So
Okay.
I just think at some point, these breakdowns would stop if we have consistent communication among us.
Communication is always healthy.
And it does not happen. It does not happen.
Well,
It happens. It happens in silos. That's the point I'm making. It happens in silos. I may see Ted, and you know, I get a few minutes. Janine, I may run into her. I mean, it's not. I'm just saying we got to get some kind of way of having more and consistent communication about, at the end of the day, the services and the things that we're going to do in this county be effective. Because if not, we're just kind of, you know, have as can, catch as can. You know what I'm saying? So this has been a communication breakdown, and that's why this has happened. You know, we sitting here as providers, we don't know what's going on until we all of a sudden get a communication that says program terminated. I was clear with Murray Murphy. Murray, I cannot do this RFP consciously for my organization. I'm gonna take a loss. I can't do it. It's watered down to the point that I cannot. And I was honest about that. That's why you don't see me responding to it. It would be a disservice to my board of directors and what I'm charged with to do to try to provide this service. I can't do it. So I'm just saying, until we get to a point that we feel that we're working together totally for the county, has a public entity and a nonprofit entity and the other players in this community, we're gonna continue to have these kind of issues that come up. And you know, I'm passionate about what I do. I don't mean to piss anybody off. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to make a point. You see what I'm saying? You get the same thing out of me. You see me, I don't change very much. You kind of know where I'm coming from, but I'm gonna try to do the best that I can for the Lorain County Urban League and Lorain County.
I think we all feel the same way, Fred.
Yeah, and I think you do, but I'm just saying we got to start rethinking on how we do business. That's the point I'm making. Yeah, I know, and I know that, Ted. It's a lot of issues. There's always going to be a lot of issues. Always. I hate to bring biblical perspective into it, but the Bible says the poor is always going to be with us. But how do we service them? How do we try to bring them up? You see what I'm saying? Because they're always going to be the ones who are going to drag on our economy. And if we don't get them jobs, we don't take care of their health care, we don't try to get them educated so that they can do better for them and their families, hence the community is better. It's not all about brick and mortar. I tell the mayors that, I tell anybody, unless you develop the people in the community is always going to have a problem, no matter how good it looks. So we got to start putting our stock in people. It's this why this country is in the shape that it's in. Because we basically left a whole generation of people behind. And that's what came out last night. I hate to say it, but that's what came out last night. People are sick of what's going on in this economy, and people don't have jobs. So they can't vote for no levy. They ain't got no money. As simple as that. And these kids that we serve are the hardest to serve. You know, they come in the Urban League with their pants down. Oh, and I'm like, look, pull your pants up. You know, straighten up. Cut your hair. Be ready to go out in the professional world and be able to present yourself. You see what I'm saying? And these people are gangsters. You know, sometimes we taking our own life in our hand to say straighten up.
Oh, Fred, you'd scare him by your side.
Now, look, let me tell you something. I'm scared of a 6-shooter, I can tell you that, no matter how big I am.
We've got a lot of issues surrounding this.
We got a lot of
Social issues are
issues.
very difficult right now,
Yeah.
but they're cutting our funding left
They're
and
cutting,
right.
you know what, they're cutting everybody's funding. Ted, I'm
Right,
getting ready to
so-
go through a cut, but what I do is I know I'm getting ready to go through a cut. My staff can tell you. 3 months before, look, this program is getting ready to end. I'm not gonna wait to a week before. Tula Ramos, I've been telling you for 3 months, ain't I, Tula? Something going on, you might not be able to stay. But I wanna communicate that early on. I don't wanna wait till the week of. That's not fair. It's just not. I'm getting ready to lose a couple of good programs that I get funding outside of this county to do. You see what I'm saying? But I'm gonna let these folks know in advance, this is what's going on. But the point I'm making though is we just gotta get a better way to communicate in this county. And it's not me versus you, Ted, versus Frank, versus Mike. All of us are in this together. Until we respect each other in that aspect, we're gonna continue to have the same type of problems that we had. And that's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you again, Fred. Okay.
Just
now-
want to remind everybody that it wasn't the county that decided to make these cuts. We were forced with these cuts. And I think we all agree that we could have handled this a lot better. We could have handled this a lot better. Communication is key. Like Janine had mentioned, she got here a little late. I think she didn't hear us say that. We do agree that we could have done things better. But she also said in her statement that 30 days wouldn't even have been enough. I mean, you have been receiving letters, extension letters, month after month after month. So there was some kind of heads up there that you knew that something had to change. Obviously, the day before wasn't enough, but even a month wouldn't have been enough, is what I'm saying. I understand.
You know, I'm doing like this and I'm saying, okay, well. if I
Okay,
let you do
Fred,
it, you know.
I think we've had a sufficient debate on this issue. There's questions on both sides. You've already had your turn, Jeanette.
I just need to clarify what she said. 30 days would be enough.
Oh, I
30
thought
days
you
would have
said
been-
30 days would not be enough when you were speaking and when you were up there
Right.
at the podium before. Because no good time is, cutting is, there's never a good time to cut.
And the point is that while we kept waiting, it was 30 days and 30 days and 30 days, there was also conversation about, we will meet with you. We will meet with you to discuss program redesign. We'll get your input. We'll get your thoughts. And as far as, yes, an RFP has gone out, that's only for 2 of the 6 programs. And so you've got programs like our program that ends today, or yesterday, where that RFP hasn't even gone out for. So those kids that are in our program now are going to be in limbo for quite some time because you got to send out the RFP and all that good stuff. Thank you.
That's what I would like to avoid.
Thank
That's why
you.
I was asking where they were falling through it. Thank you.
Those RFPs are not going out,
Right.
because those services are gonna be provided through the WDA.
In-house.
Oh, so it's not an RFP for those services. Okay, thank you.
And Janine wants a copy of the waiver, we'll give her the state waiver. Again, the state applied for the waiver because of their dialogue with all the WIB boards. And Frank, I think you were at some of those regional meetings. Operating under that waiver allowed programmatic changes. So that's another issue with the restructuring of the RFPs with regard to what the state guidance has been.
Okay.
Through the chair, we could make it a lot easier for you also. As I said, we have these files, Tula said about the participants. If you can get these files right away, you'll know exactly where every young person is that we have, and that way we can continue the services. And Commissioner Kukowski, the reason that we thought the extension would be longer is because of the RFPs themselves. The RFP said, we are looking for RFPs from December until June. So naturally, we would think we're going to be giving services on a month-to-month basis until November at least, because the RFPs will start December for a 7-month period. So that's why I think we kind of all understood that that's what would be happening. We would be working until November,
So
December.
there was room for confusion on everybody's
There was room for
part.
confusion on everybody. But we do keep I keep the most extensive files in Lorain County. You can ask your own WEA people. Some of these people are in dire need. What I'm afraid of is the RFPs will be approved, then comes the negotiations. The negotiations get altered, and then it's a month or before these kids can't wait that long. So please, just have someone from your office come pick up the files. We'll be happy to brief them on any person that needs it right away. We're just worried that they're gonna fall through the cracks.
Who shall we send, Jim? Who shall we send to pick up the files from our reduced
I could
staff?
deliver them.
I'm not sure if I'll make it back.
From our reduced staff.
No,
I could deliver
we'll
them.
be
I mean, we're
dialogue.
just worried about these kids. It's about the kids.
I know, Fred, I know. I'm just teasing.
Okay.
Mike has been.
The
not
files
only-
are there. I'll be happy to deliver them. I'm just worried about some of these kids are on borderline. We can't let them fall.
We appreciate that.
Mike has been a friend and a collaborator for a long time.
I think he's
so
been a
we'll-
friend
we'll
to
have
everybody
dialogue.
on this board and in this room. Now, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to look at those things that Mr. Cordez has from Mr. DiTilio this morning after we take a short break? What does this board want to do?
I think we have to have recommendations from the WIP board on the contracts, Betty. You can share those. That's personnel, or no, that's contracts. Is that executive session with us, Jerry? I don't know. If not, send them to us so we can look at them. We'll make a decision today after exec. Right? Is
Well, we
that
need
the
to go into
process?
exec, take care of exec business, and I need to get some stuff off my desk. And we can come, you can take a look at that and take a break, and we can go from there. Again, I thought it would be, I heard a lot of words about respect and partnership, and I see some issues from a different angle that I didn't see them before. But I think I said it and I'll say it again. We're all struggling with less, trying to do a lot more, trying to serve a lot more. And every time we get to a point, they take more away from us. And it makes it really hard to get the dynamics of the relationships functioning completely correct. So I don't think there's any purposeful intent in any of that. I didn't want to bring up those RFP proposals here, knowing that this group was coming here and kind of put it in their face because they were here. I wanted to give them an opportunity that they came here and wanted to speak. So that's why you don't have that material. So if you take a break, you can take a look over it, and we can figure something out. But we definitely need to start transitioning.
If I could,
recognize you, Tim.
thank you.
I'm
I appreciate
sorry.
that. Now, in good faith, which is what we're trying to operate in, and reasonable to us as employers, not just as caring citizens, but the legitimacy of employment, can we request that we all have, all the present providers, at least have an extension until the last day of November, so that we can go through our process? Even, it's not a question of we like it or not, there's conversations that need to be had, but for a reasonable employment process, 30 days that we can have the opportunity to communicate with we as staff in transferring files, information, and allow our staffs the reasonable consideration of being notified.
I think
That would be a request that I would ask
that's a
you to
great
act on today.
My biggest concern with that was two things, and I don't think it's an unreasonable request, quite frankly. But there's two issues. First, we're only allowed to pay for services. So while we're doing that, we have to provide services. If, the way the money's structured, there's certain parameters that has to be done on. So
I believe the way Tim stated,
Yeah.
we continue to provide the service, so we didn't have that.
In
Don't
fact,
know they
the
go
courts
through.
didn't have the information. There's a lot of trickle down. We are scheduled on every Tuesday to do a soft skill session with kids from juvenile courts, which occurred yesterday. I talked to that person on Monday, said, hey, did you guys get the information? She hadn't even gotten it yet at her level of employment. So I would suggest that perhaps
the
right
court
now,
program wasn't canceled.
hers wasn't, okay, but we deliver the soft skill service, ours was. So you can see right now I would suggest that we can continue tutoring or anything else that we need to do during a 30-day period, because right now the only folks who know it's stopped. Our participants aren't even aware of this. So I think that we could reasonably continue to engage in services, which would meet the expectation that a service is provided.
We want to.
He
And
spent it
Mike
already.
has been returning some money, so I have to acknowledge that. He understood the struggles early on, and he has cut some of his budgets there. And we do need to reduce some of the costs in those contracts. And that was another reason why I kept pushing with Frank, because we couldn't continue to fund those contracts at the level they're funded at 2009 level, and we have a 35% cut to 2010. I think if they take a cut and bring it down to the 2010 funding level, at least for the next 30 days, we can probably squeeze that out and transition a little bit smoother. I'd like to see that time. Again, I want to reemphasize the letter I sent out wasn't a termination letter. It was a reminder letter, and I could see that they weren't taking the month-to-month the way we were looking at the month-to-month. And so I think that we can probably do something there. I just got to look at what's on my desk, and I can talk to you guys individually when we take a break, and we can come up with something. I don't think it's what Tim proposed is unreasonable at all, okay? But again, I didn't know about these talks in September that went on. We have a lot of people doing a lot of work, and I wrote that down here because it's one of the things I want to find out about. I didn't know that Fred had spoken over there earlier also, and those things may or may not have been communicated to Frank and me. I can't say that they absolutely weren't because of the things that we're doing right now, but clearly I didn't understand the message if it did come through, and I'm going to take ownership of that. It's not difficult to make a mistake. It's difficult to admit, or difficult to admit you made a mistake. It's difficult to do something about it. So.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. I'm going to move that we go into executive session for the purposes outlined by Mr. Cordez and Mr. Ennis, at which time we will return to I can't talk, to continue our meeting.
Second.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page. Then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.